Okay, Raj, we're running live. We're well, not really 2:00, but I guess we can start off. Welcome, Raj.
Thank you. Thanks, Ben. Andarki namaskaram. I wanted to say that because I had this thing like, any other child. I was like, look, if I ever become an actor, if I had to receive an Oscar, I'll start with my mother tongue. Or if I become a cricketer, like how, we're from India, we are crazy for cricket. So if I ever get a man of the match, I would go and tell them in Telugu to start with, which is my mother tongue. And, so I didn't do any of that. So, but I did this. So I had to start that with my mother tongue starting. And, it's all good.
Dhanyavad.
Thank you.
Okay. Raj, I was having a chat with my team at BAI before we jumped on this call. We were having a team meeting at the Buyers Aid Institute, and I was letting people know that I was interviewing you because your story is very fascinating. And I was saying, I was making a comment that we need to get across a lot more of the success of our students because there's people like you who very humble, laying very low publicly, but doing incredibly well, like incredibly well. What was it like on the 26th of June when you sent an email to your previous boss when you're an employee, letting them know that you're out?
Look, it's a lot of mixed feelings in there. So I've been with the company for about 14 years, and so I still have some very, very good friends working in that organization. It's I genuinely didn't think I'm going to quit the job, that soon as such. But the idea was, so with no disrespect to any of the industries, I still love engineering. I still read, the articles on asset management and things like that when I get a chance. But that was like, so I was thinking about it for 2-3 weeks before. It just came to a point where, look, it's I saw it as an opportunity than anything else. Like I can't be at two places at the same time. Like I was running a team which was looking at transmission lines and in a power utility network, which we were covering about 1 million plus customers and things like that. So it's a full-on job, and obviously I can't be doing anything related to this while I'm out there, and vice versa, right? So it came to a point where I can't be at two places at one time. If a client is trusting me and coming up with, let's say, for example, 500,000 million or 2 million, whatever it is, when a deal has to be done, a deal has to be done. So I can't drop everything and do that. And that's pretty much where it is. Like, look, I had to make a call, and I wanted to have something by myself. That was the whole idea. I started this about a year or so ago. Is by the time I turn 40, I want to have something running and ready to take off. So yeah, it's literally 4 weeks from then is my birthday. So I said, okay, that's about it. So I had to make a call today, and I pretty much picked the phone and typed a email to my boss to say that, look, thanks for the opportunity, but yeah, I'm deciding to quit the job now. So that's where it was. And frankly, I couldn't sleep for 3 days. I never was in a stage where I don't have a job. It's always been like you wake up in the morning, you're rushing to work, you're getting ready to work, driving through the traffic and all that. And all of a sudden, for the next few days, it was so weird that, look, what am I doing now? So if I'm sitting idle for 5 minutes, I'm like, am I wasting time? Is it what business owners do? They have to make every minute count. So what else do I do? And I was putting a lot of pressure on myself. And then slowly it started to ease into it now.
I mean, in the time that you were running your business part-time as a buyer's agent, you did like 25 transactions, right? And that was over what, a nine month period?
Yeah, about that. Yes, approximately. Yeah, it's about 25, 27. I can't count them exactly, but yeah, somewhere around that. Yeah. I'm about close to 40 now. So yeah.
Close to 40 now. But let's go back before. So the 25, which is very impressive, right? Did you still, and I'm curious to know how you felt, like, did you still not have the strong confidence and the belief that this was going to unconditionally work for you?
Look, it was not about money alone. Money is the last thing which, I mean, like as a business owner, everyone, end of the day, money is really important. But then when I was coming into the business, right, my goal was when I started in 22, end of 2025, like December 2025, I want to be in a stage where I'm very practical in the approach what I do. I don't, while I like to daydream and things, but it still had to be practical, right? So I was thinking to myself, look, and I don't want to say that I wanted the biggest buyers agency in Australia or something like that. Those words are good to say, but where I live in WA, where buyers agents are very, very less as compared to some of the eastern states, I want to be at least the household name for every single person who want to buy a house or a property or whatever it is. I want to be able to get the trust of people where they could be able, let's say for example, you moved to WA, you don't know who I am, you should be able to pick the phone and say, Raj, I live in XYZ suburb. I'm thinking of buying a property out there. In a quick 2 minutes, should I do it or not? So that's if someone can do that without even knowing me, to me, that's a trust which they have on me and on the brand which I'm wanting to create. And that's what I wanted to achieve by 2025. And once we get that, and once people are willing to talk to you about their personal things like that, I believe the business is flourishing. And that's what I am aiming to do, and that's what I'm really working towards. So when I quit the job, it's not about, I sort of felt, look, I should be able to get the thing. But one, I wasn't just used to not having a job before. And the other thing is, I wasn't actively prospecting as such. People were coming based on the referrals which are passed by my past clients. For example, my clients have become my advocates. They are the ones who are talking about me to other people and things like that. Like yesterday, I was talking to a lady from Brazil. I don't even know any of my contacts know her or whatever it is, but she heard my name from 3 of my different clients from different areas where they bought the properties and things like that. So she's like, look, I want you to help me buy this property and things like that. So my clients are the ones who are supporting me. And for me, at that time, it was like, as a business owner, it's brilliant now, but what's going to happen in the future? Is my funnel going to fill in regularly? Am I going to get that minimum of 5, 6, or 8, or whatever clients it is? So depending on how I want to build the team up and things like that. So these were all the things which are running in my back end.
But I mean, your business is already doing so well, right? Like 40 transactions.
Yeah.
It's a lot in a short period of time. So I know you've got big hopes in 2025, but I'm assuming that you've already looking back at what you've done in the period of time and celebrating your success, right?
Yes, absolutely. Celebrating in the sense that, so my clients have become some of my good friends now. Like, I had a client, where they actually invited me to their housewarming. And, so usually when we have the housewarming, we have that 50, 60 people in the house and all this set up. But that particular event when they were doing is literally their parents who flew from India and their siblings who are in Adelaide, and they flew here, and it's just us. So it's literally very, very close family is what it is. And so that sort of made me feel like, look, that's how they see us, as a close family now. So, that's the kind of relationships which I'm building, and that's what I'm celebrating more. Yes, of course, the business is growing, the money is flowing in. That's not an issue. But, it's about this thing where, people have that connect with you as a person. That's the celebration, I believe, which is something, which I'm really looking forward to, and which is what I was working for in the past.
So your business to date has just grown through your clients. So you bought for clients. They've then referred other people, and I'm assuming they've bought again through you. So your whole business, is that correct? Is just
yes. At the moment, yeah. At the moment, most of my business is like that. Most of my clients are my clients referring to someone else, or someone talking about me in one of their catch-ups or something. Say, oh, by the way, I bought a property. It was doing so well. And then someone is like, oh, by the way, I heard that, you helped this guy, so, can we talk about it and things like that. That's how it all started.
Why did
And
you
that's how
become
it's
a
going on.
buyer's agent?
One, I always loved about things about property. It's all about, it's not house or anything as such. It's just property in general. It could be different kinds of property. And we have been personally into property investing for about 13 years now, I and my wife together. So it's like, so we built our portfolio, and we helped many of my friends even before I became a buyer's agent. I never knew that there is a career called buyer's agency. Right. So I was still going and helping people out. I was going with inspections with my friends. I was negotiating it, like sitting in the room with the agents, talking to them and saying, the agent would be like, no, this is the money we want. And, that's how traditionally Perth used to be, right? A few years ago, where we would sit in their room and saying that, we're writing an offer. No, this is what it is. How can I apply with my terms and conditions? What can we make it to make it more attractive? I never knew that buyer's agency is a concept, but I enjoyed doing this process. So I would go with a friend on a weekend. It could be a restaurant which they wanted to buy, or it could be a house, or it could be a developmental land, or whatever it is. So, that's when, and there are a few things I think, I'm a strong believer that, there's some sort of forces which had to align for you to get into it. It all happened in a way that, things started to align into it. And, that's when one of those days, your video popped up saying that, hang on, what's all this about, so, okay, so what do I need to do? And that's when the questions started to come in, and, things started to fall into place pretty quickly after.
And so you said you and your wife, you've been investing for a long time, like 13, 14 years. So
yeah.
Are you guys deploying the same investment strategy that you guys have used to build your portfolio to help your clients?
Not exactly same, because as initial investors and things like that, we have made mistakes like anyone else. We have made mistakes, and some of them are very, very costly mistakes. So if there is anything I learned from those mistakes, and I make sure I don't do anything related to those mistakes anymore. It's about learning from the mistakes, and that's the reason why so I'm very, very picky about what kind of strategies we implement for each of these investors. It's not like everyone had to buy the same sort of property, so everyone's situation is different. So I pretty much link everything to my background, in the sense that as an engineer, for example, when I'm running a project, we have to understand the risk appetite of the business. How much risk the business can take. So in a certain time, yes, you want a huge growth, but you might have to worry about what could go wrong with this and things like that as well. So I bring that approach into helping the clients as well. So that's why most of my processes which I'm built around is all like an engineering project. Like, for example, I have scope of work for every single client I work with. The scope of work goes to a point where it talks about what's in the scope, what's out of scope, what does a success look like, and multiple scenarios I run, option 1, option 2, option 3, and out of these options, what's the recommended option? And pretty much it goes into that detail, with what I work with my clients.
I love it. Yeah, it's great. Your obviously background in engineering.
I know it can be pretty, yeah, I mean, so what it is more than anything else, I want my clients to be very knowledgeable about what they're doing. Right? We don't want to just pick something just because it fits into the budget. For example, if you are buying something, I tell them you should know why you're buying it. And the best part is, if you say no to a property, you should know why we are saying no to a property. So it's understanding the decision. And what I tell people is, look, no one can control the market, right? Imagine, all these properties grow by 1,000% in the next 5 years, or for some reason, the whole of Australia stops growing, or whatever it is. But the confidence what a buyer can have as a buyer is like, as of that given time, like let's say, for example, 7th of January 2022, I had all the right information I have, and I have the support system which I have, which I'm the support system for them. And based on that thing, we made the right decision in buying this property. So whatever happens is like, we made the best decision out of it. We couldn't have done anything different. So when people wake up, they're like, look, we did the best decision on that day. That gives them the peace of mind. Like, it can never be beaten with anything else. And that's what I strive to do. And that's the reason why, everyone I'm working with, so I've worked with like different professions now. I make sure every one of them go through that process. Like, I've worked with some really busy professionals. I've done like, I'm not joking. I actually did I start with a workshop. It goes for 45 minutes to an hour usually. About 3 weeks ago, I did a workshop at 3 o'clock my time, in 3 a.m. my time, because my client is in Sydney and he can only do it at 5 a.m. in his time. He can't do any time else. So I had to be awake all the whiles until 3 a.m. and I finished it, and at about 4, half past 4 is when I went to bed. So it's like, so I actually demand their time. That one meeting defines what we are going to do. So if we don't have that time, we can't get what we want. And so that's when I keep it open. Yeah.
You said you did a deal. You closed the deal last night, 11:30.
Yes, that's right. Yeah. Last night at 11:30. So this is for a first home for a client who have been living in Perth for about 5 years, I believe. 3 kids, and they are living in a small apartment, very tiny apartment, and kids have no place to play. So they're pretty much putting all the borrowing and everything they can, but then they want a home where they can bring up the kids. So the requirements are like, it has to be like this. It has to have a backyard. It has to be in a good school zone and everything like that. So we negotiated a property, and these properties is what I usually call as post market, right? It went in the market, the finance didn't go through. So the contacts we have, the agent came back to us saying that, look, by the way, this thing didn't go through. Do you have a client who can buy it, and things like that? So we renegotiated the price. It was high sevens, so we got it to about 720 for these people. So we got it all signed up, and I was constantly pushing them. As much as doing all these negotiations and getting the thing is done, but until the seller signs on it, you're not sure if they're going to accept it. So I kept messaging him, texting him, calling him in the night, and he's like, mate, I'm working on it. And about 11:30 he called me saying that, yeah, mate, it's all done, very good. So now the next thing is making sure the finance goes through. So I'm now pestering the mortgage agent to say, look, I sent it to him right away. Like, did you lodge the application? When are we getting it? What's happening with that? So anything which can help my clients to secure the property, we'll have to do that. That's that's the nature of work, isn't it?
Real estate 24/7. So you said today you're working on 2 negotiations?
Yes, that's right. Yeah. So there is 2 which are happening. One of them we verbally agreed to it. But the thing is, I haven't physically seen the property yet. It's tenanted at the moment, and the tenants are working like 6 days a week. So it's hard to view the property. So it is technically subject to inspection. So the agent is trying to get us in end of the today or tomorrow, and then we'll be able to put that on paper and close the deal. Yeah, so I make it a point to visit every single property physically myself if it's in WA. And now we are actually getting into other states as well. So I'm negotiating a property around the remote Queensland space. So I have someone who is going and inspecting the properties as well. And I have 3 clients who are sort of looking for owner occupied homes in Melbourne. And I actually got someone on board on for the inspections and doing that background work for me in Melbourne. Again, everyone whom I'm getting on board are investors who have got that 4, 5, 8, 10 properties and things like that themselves. So they know exactly what they're looking for. They know the markets and things like that. And so at the moment, yes, they have probably other full-time jobs and things like that, but they're really keen on these kind of things. So so someone who understands the market, who understands the what work has to go into securing a good property are the people whom I'm trying to get on board with the local experience on it.
I love it. Since you obviously built your own portfolio and then you've now become a buyer's agent, have you noticed your skills developing? Obviously, with negotiation, with sourcing, with communicating with agents. Have you started to? I mean, obviously, you've done 40 transactions. It's a lot, but have you started to understand how you can, I guess, play this sport better?
Yes, absolutely. Every day is a learning experience. Every agent is different. So like, I mean, if on an average, I drive about 800 kilometers within Perth, within the city, on a weekly basis. So that's the amount of travel I do to keep my network going and things like that. I meet up with people regularly, meet up with new people, meet up with my clients sometimes, so like, someone might want to just catch up and things like that. I never say no to them. So, maybe I catch up at the time of their time they finish work. I'll probably go and see them for a quick coffee or a drink or something, and then jump on to the next one, and things like that. So I'm constantly on the drive most of the times as well. So that's why, a lot of the people might hear my indicator moving as I'm talking on the phone, on the loudspeaker and things like that. But, you got to maximize what it is, so you have to build that relationships with the people, and it is always getting better. And, it's like there is always things, and there are agents sometimes, who don't want to work with you. I can tell you an example, right? There is an agent whom I asked like so many questions on the property because it's a different sort of building. Why would they leave so much empty space unless they have some easements or something? What are the reasons why? And asked many questions. And then, so he was asking me for certain figure to say, look, you need to put this amount, and I didn't see the value for that. So I started negotiating on it. And in the meanwhile, there's someone else who came in from Sydney. All they asked for is, what can I buy it at? What's the rent I'm getting? And they close the deal in 5 minutes, right? And it's a different buyer's agent as well. And so what this guy pretty much said is, look, you took my couple of hours at least to source all the titles and documents and everything, and then you didn't even give me the money which I wanted. So what am I working for? So instead I would work for people who just ask me 2, 3 questions, close the deal in 5 minutes. So he's pretty much sources the properties for him on a regular basis now. So, but for me, I'm standing for the client. It doesn't matter what the agent thinks about. And as a professional, the agent would have understood that I'm trying to do the right thing for the client. But I'll stick to my ethics, and my basics is that I want to secure the best thing for the client. So what I tell my clients is, if I'm in their stage and if I don't have the confidence to buy it for myself, I wouldn't buy it for them. So but that's how personalized service or the connection which I want when I'm purchasing a property for any of my clients.
Very interesting. Yeah, obviously you're doing extensive due diligence. How many properties are you looking to purchase over the next 12 months, or like this financial year?
I don't know. I mean, I was talking to one of my friends from BAI the other day, and I was telling I only want to do one client and one property deal and one client a day. So I want to sign up a new client a day, close a property a day if I can, So just want to work half an hour to negotiate and close the deal. Just want to work half an hour to sign them up. Simple, right? Just 1 hour a day I'm working, and that's about it. And that's a dream, if I could do that. But so it's not going to be like that, So but yeah, look, I haven't put a number on it as such, but the thing is, yeah, I don't want to be sitting idle. I don't want to be, prospecting, if that makes sense. I don't want to be going and, telling or upselling myself to people. Instead, I want people to come and say, look, your reputation has got us to contact you. Can you help us out? So I want to turn that in there if I can do it as a business owner, instead of me trying to upsell myself, people reaching out and saying, look, can you help me out? And that's the thing, I have quite a few people reaching out, and the very first question what I ask is, what are you expecting from me? Like, so if it is practically possible, I'm doing it. I don't care how difficult it is. I'm definitely going to do it, but I don't want you to sign up without even knowing what you want. So I want to know exactly what you want. So if you don't know what you want, let's do the workshop first. Let's understand what the requirement is, and I can suggest what I could do for you in multiple options, like how I said. Which one do you want to prefer? If this is what you want, and I believe it can be done within the budget, within the locations you're looking for, what you're trying to get out of it, we'll do it. That's typically how I go.
Sounds like you're having a lot of fun with this. Are you loving what you're doing?
Oh, I love what I do. The only thing is if I could, as I said, convert it somehow to one client and one deal a day. So it's like a dream, but yeah.
With your engineering background, I'm sure you're going to work out a process, a system, a way for you to make everything more efficient.
Look, I'm working on it, and frankly, because at the moment, until last month, I was literally doing end to end. So I was doing my resourcing. I was doing my finding the properties, my negotiations, and including my social media. So I'm still behind by my social media. Like I think I haven't even posted all my things. I forgot to follow up for reviews from clients, for example. And obviously, a few months later, people might not have the same excitement what they had in the past because they're moving on to their next things in life, right? So I haven't been following it up. Now I'm starting to get into that space, where I think it was like, it just got to a point where I was more of a hustler. I was trying to jump in and trying to do everything. But now I'm getting into a point where I want to get the right people on it and, get them to do the job while, I can still sort of guide in what I believe we should be doing as a business. That's what it is. So look, you never say never. That's the dream. If I can do that, that'll be good. But I'm really grateful for whatever I've got. So I feel like I've been probably one of the luckiest people on earth as far as what I know. Obviously, and I don't know a lot of people, but everything has fell into place. I got a very good support system. My wife is someone who keeps me very, very humble and keeps it going. And so my parents and so my siblings, and I have an younger sister who works for Google, and my dad is a businessman who is in the 70s, and he's talking about starting more businesses. He has been in business all his life. I was very tense to tell him, right? So it's funny when I quit the job, I told my wife, look, I quit the job, and then she was like, look, I've been telling you for 6 months, maybe you should go on a long service leave or something. I'm glad you did. Yeah, that's fine. Go do what you want, and if it ever doesn't work, you obviously have that 18 years of experience, and you can come back to it and things like that. But I was very, very concerned. How do I put it to my parents? Especially because my dad is someone like, and even today, he's like, okay, come back to India. You have got businesses and things you can take over. But I always wanted to do things by myself, and that's the reason why I moved to Australia, right, where I had no cousins, no siblings, nothing. And I was very worried what my dad might say. And one day I just thought, look, I haven't done anything wrong. I'm just trying to do something. So let me put it this way. I called him straight away on his mobile and said, do you got 5 minutes? I have something to talk to you. He said, yeah, tell me, what is it? I said, I quit my job, and I'm concentrating on the business full time. And he's like, okay, did you quit today? I said, no, it's been 4 weeks. I quit the job. 4 or 6 weeks, something like that. And then my dad said, for a brief few seconds, 5, 6 seconds, there's nothing, no talk between us. And then he said, you waited too long, so you should have done it much before, So I was like, wow, so a man whom I always used to look at, especially with his, engineer, with his business background and things like that. That coming from him sort of gave me that confidence to say, look, so he's approved my decision now, so which is good, So it's a different way how people can see things, I guess. I it sort of felt like I was putting too much pressure on myself. It's not like you can't try something different and things like that, and so you can always progress through.
Well, on that note, a big win for me is, you obviously quite surprised with how your dad responded when you called him. And you may be surprised with how I look at this, but when I look at your success, like you've bought a lot of properties. Obviously, you built a good portfolio for yourself, you and your wife. You're very switched on. You're very committed. But you've done very well in a short period of time, I think, from what I see. When I look at the data over the last 4 years of what I see people do, I feel like you're in the top 2%. But the biggest win for me, for you, like where I sit, is you quitting your job and actually now pursuing something you're more passionate about. It's not about you doing 40 transactions and all this stuff. Like for me, the biggest win is like you're now taking full control of your life and running your own show. And I think it's very liberating. I mean, I used to be an employee. I know what it's like. Like that to me is just, I'm so stoked for you because of that.
Thank you. Thanks a lot, Ben. I mean, like, look, it wouldn't have happened without this community which you supported. And that's a funny thing, right? Every industry is different. And for example, if I talk about engineering, right, when a newcomer comes in, it's usually is like people say, look, I know the market is difficult, but you will get a job. Don't worry, do this kind of thing. But in this community, as a buyer's agents with the groups, what we got and things like that, yourself or James or, many of the other people as well, it's like, so when you actually talk to them, there is so much encouragement from people. It's like, yes, you technically are competitors to each other, but there is enough market for everyone. You can have your own business and things like that, and the support which comes from everyone is amazing. And I think that's very, very valid. And there is a lot of value for people like that. And I do know people, or I have spoken to someone. I don't want to name that person, who. In the very start, I think in the very first month or something, when I joined the BI group, right? So that person is like, oh, look, this whole team is a con team, you shouldn't be working with them. Put them a Google review, and I'm like, hang on, why? What is it making the difference? I mean, like, the whole idea is because in the past there were a few people who are doing that, and they don't like more people coming on board, and that's all it is. Other than that, I don't see anything else. And it's funny how people pursue things. And but when you're actually in the community, you see that support is amazing what you get. And so everyone, even in the BAs in WA, it's like, so yes, we all have competitors. And funny that so many people do window shopping, and they're like, oh, I spoke to him, and things. And I remember there was one client from Sydney, who was like, oh, look, I'm thinking of signing up with him because his fees is like, let's say, $2,000 less than yours and things like that. I was like, look, you're in good hands. He does an amazing job. Please go ahead with that. And so I don't have any words to say against him or whatever. Why his fees is different, because he might have his way of processing and I have my own way of doing it. So unfortunately, we can't match on that. Like the insurance companies never price match, because everyone, the fine print is different, and that's the same thing over here. But other than that, I think it's such a good place to be. And so the positive vibes what you get and things like that is amazing to see.
Yeah, and you made a good point earlier just around, you guys are effectively in competition, all of you.
Yep.
And it's just amazing how everyone does support each other, and everyone, as you said, that there's so much pie to eat.
Yep.
And it's amazing that everyone is very supportive. And I think that's what drives a lot of the success, right?
Yes, absolutely. And it's like, I mean, I can, when we meet for a coffee or a drink, I'll probably show you I could show my WhatsApp messages, like, someone who has done really well in BAI. So yesterday, he just sent me a thing to say that, look, I've hit this kind of scenario. So what do you do in this space? So all it takes is one text message from me, and he could progress in that. And I've done the same thing. I messaged someone and said that, look, I'm trying to buy something like this, and this is what has happened. What do you think? What should I be looking at? Or what am I doing? And it's like, because every case is different, right? So you have to understand, there might be some tiny bits and pieces. Overall, we all know the process, but unless you have actually seen that experience happen in your own thing, you probably won't know. As a thing, like, for example, one of the properties which I secured for a buyer, right? It's an amazing property. We negotiated it a lot, and it's like, at a very, very high level, early 500s property, the jewel entry home, we could get $800 per week rental on it. And the similar properties as just a normal 4x2 are selling around 550 to 560. We already bought under the market, and pretty good rental returns and things. But what we saw was, what we were about to settle onto the property, and then the tenant passed away. So not in the house, outside, but then the tenant had dependents living in the house. So now we have to go and find the immediate family who can look after so what it means is we delayed the whole process, right? We said, okay, look, we are happy to delay it for 3 weeks or 4 weeks, whatever time it takes, by the time you do that. But how many of the people who bought the properties for themselves or other buyers agents might have had the similar experience? Not a lot. So when I was stuck there, I had to rely on other people. I had to call in other people and say, oh, by the way, did you see anything like this? Did you see anything like this? And my conveyancer, whom I work with, one of these people, he's amazing. And, he's got like 30 plus years of experience. And there is another conveyancer who has got, like, she has been running the industry or her company for about 35 years. So these are my people whom I tap on immediately. So I called this person immediately and said, look, I'm having this issue. Can you tell me what can I do? How can we proceed with this? They're like, okay, hang on, so this is what we could do, this is what we could do. And then once I know that, that's when I can convey it to my clients, right? If not, the clients will panic. Is like, oh, what happened now? We bought the property, and they might see it as a sentimental value, but then, like, look, hang on, this is nothing to worry about. This is what it's happening. And we just got the news this morning that, so they are vacating the property. The dad has come in, and, their immediate family came in and taking over the kids and things like that. So so we will get the property, but it's a 2-week delay in the settlement and things like that. So now we are progressing about with the 2-week delay. How do we start advertising for tenants now if we can? So we're getting permissions from everyone to be able to do it and start finding tenants and things like that. So it doesn't impact my buyers. So there's multiple bits and pieces which you're always going to learn, and that's what I told you, right? So every day is a learning experience. There's something or the other you can learn. So that one extra bit you learn gives you a lot more leverage in the future.
Raj, you're an inspiration. A lot of good learning from just this session with you. Even just your, I guess, your enthusiasm to learn each day and just immerse yourself in what you're doing. And you obviously care a lot about your clients, giving that example around the easements that you noticed on that property. I want to say well done. I just wanted people to hear your story because you come from a very good place. Not only have you done well, you've been in the trenches yourself and you've built a portfolio. You really understand the mechanics of it all. And no doubt you're going to take over WA, and you already are. And that 2025 goal, I would be very surprised if you didn't hit it. So thank you.
Yeah, thanks, man. Thanks for the support. And yeah, look, there's quite a few challenges which are thrown at me and things like that, and I'm trying to get to them one at a time. Obviously, our very good friend Ashish, so he threw a challenge at me, I think, end of last financial year. I don't know if he remembers it, but I actually bet him buying a property a bit lower price than him, sub 300 properties, so I bought something which is like few thousands cheaper than him. And I was saying that, and he's like, oh, no, that's not the thing, but, try to beat my highest, so which is the 6 million mark. I was like, wow, now I had to find someone who wants to buy a $6 million house, so yeah, look, I'm really grateful for all the opportunities and everything. And as I said, the God has been very kind, and thanks again for all the support. And yeah, looking forward to a lot more. And yeah, if this could inspire people who might want to get into something else, what they want to like, I'm more than happy to, be a part of that support system if they can get into it. And on that note, I actually had a friend of mine who called me yesterday who is turning 40 as well. He's like, look, he wants to be a real estate agent, but more on the selling side. He's like, look, how did you make a progression? How did you make a call to quit the job? Because we all have been working for 10, 15, 20 years or something like that, earning that 200+ K job where you're pretty comfortable in what you do, right? For you to step off of the zone and do something different, so how do I do it? Why do I do? What if it doesn't work and things like that? I think that's where people have to think about. Look, sometimes you got to take a few steps behind to go forward, and that's what you have to do in life. And so if you are thinking like I have to jump from here and only forward, so life doesn't go like that. And that's why I keep talking about there is a lot of learnings, a lot of twists and turns in my life or anyone's life like that to be able to get there and things like that. And yeah, finally, thanks to my wife who has been there supporting me all the while. And it's not easy for her. She's on shift work. She's a pediatrician who is getting into the training now, or sorry, she's finishing up training almost. So she's on shift work. She's on night shifts now. So which means that I need that flexibility for the kids. I need to take them out for classes and things like that. And all that is what the business can provide me with the opportunity, right? When I'm working, we had to leave the kids in the vacation care or whatever until the end of the day. Yeah, like when I was picking my son, the first one, he was always the first person to go to the school and last person to leave. So it's not like that anymore. So they're getting a lot more personal time with us. So these are all the perks or the benefits what you can get from being in a business, I guess.
Thank you, Raj. Loved it. Love talking with you, and I'm going to be watching you closely. Take care.
Thank you. Thanks, man. Thank you. Thanks.
Bye-bye.
Yeah. Bye.